The 2027 Nigerian election is already generating buzz, with various politicians and their supporters exchanging verbal jabs. Now, it's clear that the 2027 Nigerian election might be highly contested, with various interest groups and individuals vying for power. The Labour Party, for instance, over the weekend inaugurated the Directorate for Mobilization and Integration across all 36 states of the country, and the FCT. The state's directorate, which are charged with the responsibility of mobilizing and integrating people with proven integrity in the party ahead of the 2027 election, are made up of a coordinator and a secretary, and also a member representing each of the 3 senatorial zones of the states. Now, on the program this evening, I'll be speaking with Marcel Ngogbehei. Is the Director General of the Labour Party Directorate of Mobilization and Integration. He joins me virtually. Thank you for your time, Marcel.
So much, and thanks for having me.
All right, great. Let's talk about, before we get, of course, into other issues, you know, as regards the party, let's talk about this recent move by the party to put together, well, I call it a directorate now across virtually all the states, including the FCT. What's this about?
Okay, one of the things which is the biggest problem in Nigeria is that a segment of Nigerians do not get involved in politics. And they do not get involved in politics because politics in the past has been a preserve of the corrupt. You have to have a level of baggage on you before you can get involved in politics. But with the coming of His Excellency Peter Obi and the entry of Labour Party, a window of opportunity was opened for a lot of Nigerians, people like me. I mean, if someone tells me I'm going to get involved in politics at this time, I will tell you no. I mean, just 2 years ago, I'm not someone that's really involved in politics. But bottom line is, politics defines everything that we do in this country. Politics defines our means of life, that we have insecurity, that the economy is being messed up, that we cannot, you know, travel at night with our, you know, with the feeling of safety is because of politics. Politics ensures that the kind of leader we want is enthroned. So what the Labour Party is doing at this point is opening up its doors to everyone. And it had an ideology which was preached by the then ex-presidential candidate of Labour Party, His Excellency Peter Obi. And it's the same ideology that brought most of us into politics, and that is what most of us are pushing forward. So what Labour Party has done recently is, after they inaugurated the National Directorates in June last year, yes, in June this year, they went ahead to now ask us to inaugurate the State Directorate. So it's like a pyramid kind of structure that we're building, and that's because we believe that we have to start early enough so that we can resolve some of the challenges we had in the past. Nigeria can elect the kind of leader they want if everybody comes out and push for it. So Labour Party is throwing that door open, and we are asking everybody from everywhere to, there has to be a vehicle through which you can, you know, gain political power. And Labour Party has presented itself as an alternative. We wouldn't have had this opportunity in APC, neither will we have this opportunity in PDP and other, you know, ruling parties. But Labour Party is a people-oriented party, and they have opened up those doors. You don't need to know anybody to be part of this. I mean, I was appointed based on my track record of what I did in the 2023 election. So it's an open door. So we are building the structure that from, you know, national up all the way to the polling unit level.
I mean, talking about structure, which of course was a core of the conversation in 2023. I mean, if we cast our mind back a bit, the question as regards does the party have a structure came up. And I mean, to the surprise of not just Nigerians, but to the world, a party that was perceived to not have a structure sort of did well, came third, a strong third in the last election. I mean, that shows you the power of mobilization. But I'd just also like you to speak on some, well, I call it misconception or some conception as regards the party, that maybe it's not as united, you know, or that it just makes a lot of noise on social media as against in real life. It's more of a social media party, according to many, and that maybe many of its followers are quote and unquote, please, for want of words, aggressive and violent. They would rather, be very, as against reason, they would want to sort of impose. I'd like you to speak on some of this, what I call it misconceptions right now, and how this structure that you are building hopes to address some of these issues.
Now, the followers of His Excellency P2B and the members of Labour Party cannot be described as aggressive. I mean, if we are saying we're aggressive, then we should have burned the country down when our election was stolen. Everybody knows that if the system works and the server were not switched off and INEC did not play its magic, His Excellency P2B would be in Aso Rock today. And when that happened, we didn't burn down the country. We knew what the other followers of other political parties did in the previous elections where their candidate lost elections. We knew how they unleashed mayhem. So you wouldn't have described the followers of His Excellency P2B and Labour Party members as aggressive and violent. We are the most peace-loving people, and we have a lot of highly intelligent and composed personnel in our midst. So let us get that clear. Now, in terms of the structure that we're building, in 2023, we came out as a force and we did what we did. But along the line, we also noticed there are some challenges, there are some things we would have done better, and that was what we are beginning to do now. In 2023, it's like a lot of people just came in, we got people together and we pushed, right? If we had been more coordinated, it might be more difficult for the INEC and the other agencies of criminality to do what they did, But this time around, we're beginning to close those ranks and tidy up those knots. And that's why we're building a formal structure under the Directorate of Mobilization and Integration. So you will have the national team, which arm the DG, and then we've just set up the state team. In the history of this country, a group of youths, were able to inaugurate structure across the federation at the same time. It has never happened with any political party. And we're not going to stop at the state level. We're going to go ahead to now set up the senatorial, set up the local, set up the polling unit level. So at the end of the day, we're looking at having a minimum of a 3 million verified structure that owes its allegiance to the party. And because we have a lot of time with us, we're going to take time to train them, equip them, and get them ready for 2027. It's not going to be as usual. What they did in 2023, they will not try it in 2027. We are more than ready now.
All right. Let's also talk about the issue of the idea of the Obidient movement, which, of course, came like a political revolution and has gathered momentum and is continuing to gather momentum. For many, they will tell you it's a crop of young, passionate individuals who want to see the country move forward, right? I would like you to speak more on what actually the ideology of this is about.
Okay, so let me use myself for example. I'm a young man that's just got out of school, picked up a job and was carrying on with my life. I have a job and I could feed myself and my family. But then in the process, I found out that me just looking after myself and earning money and going on without paying attention to what is happening within the policy is not helping me, because I cannot travel. I cannot do the things some of my mates are doing in other countries. I am currently in the UK, and I've been able to see what it is for a working nation, a nation that cares about its citizen, that's able to establish all the tenets that makes a society work. So most Obidient are ordinary people, the market seller, the sugarcane seller in Kano, the onion seller, the rice seller, the spare part seller. They're just ordinary people that are tired of the status quo of the country, and we're head-bent on using their numbers and their thumbprints to be able to install a president of their own that will represent their own interests. Because what we found out in the past is that most people, the parties who conduct their congresses is the highest bidder, and the money bags will buy the delegates up, and then they will present us with a limited option. But this time around, we told ourselves that we would go on our own to support the candidates we believe will help us, build the kind of country we have. And we saw that in His Excellency Peter Obi. So most obedient, most ordinary Nigerians that want progress, that want a country that works, rally around him. And I can tell you, it's a natural tendency. Everybody wants a country that works. And if we see the person that we believe can help us, that we all rally around that, and that was what happened. So everybody that rallied around that time were termed as obedient because we supported His Excellency Peter Obi. And we still believe for now he's still the most viable candidate for that position. And that's simply because of his track record. We know that he's not going to go there to steal money. We know he's young and energetic, and we know he's brilliant, and we know his ideals. We know what he's made of. And that's why we supported him, and that's why we will keep on continuing to support him.
But some would also ask and argue that looking at the current situation of Nigeria in terms of some of the policies that this administration has implemented, put in motion, which of course has had a ripple effect, particularly on the purchasing power of Nigerians and even the strength of our naira. Would maybe your candidate, would he have done better?
Okay, let me give you an example. During my study at London Business School, where my professor was looking at economy of nations, I was particularly interested because I need to know why the UK economy is working and the Nigerian economy is not working. Why would people ordinarily want to bring money into the UK economy to help develop the economy, and they wouldn't want to bring money into the Nigerian economy? Do you know what we arrived at the end of the day? Believability. An investor will look at who is your president and tell himself, can I believe this man that if I bring $1 billion into the economy, that my investment is protected? Does the country have the necessary institutions that are not dependent on people to run? Institutions that are self-running. So His Excellency Peter Obi would by far do more. It's not about maybe the system is bad, so it's going to continue. No. Is about who is at the helm of affairs and how the person is being perceived by the international community. Let's go back to during Goodluck Jonathan's time, when you have people like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala as a coordinating minister. You know how much investment that are coming. The international community will look at you and say, this particular system is run by a very responsible person, so we can trust him and we can invest. And I can tell you that His Excellency Peter Obi's presidency would start building institutions and not personality, because we need to move away from personality, where the president's body language dictates all. So if the president doesn't like you, everybody doesn't like you. We need to build institutions that would even stand against the president if the president violates the law. So we want to see that put in place. So most countries that have gone through this path, they went through this path by building institutions, by ensuring that they have people that are credible, that the international community can reference with. So that is the main difference. So a P2B presidency would by far do more. We're 100% sure of that.
For specifics, for instance, the issue of subsidy removal and the floating of the naira that we're seeing, particularly that of the subsidy removal, do you think it would have handled it differently?
I was close to His Excellency Peter Obi during his campaign, and he made it clear. It's not about the removal of subsidy. It's about the necessary mechanism you put in place to cushion the effect. Removal of subsidy is good because subsidy is seen as one of the things that is like a leakage where a lot of money goes in. But what have you put in place to cushion the effect? So I have a child up and I'm trying to drop the child down, right? And I know that once the child lands on the ground, he's going to probably crack his legs or break his bones. What do? That's why specialists will spread net. So when the child bounces, it bounces back and then the child goes down. So it's not about removing the subsidy. It's what are the palliatives, what are the mechanisms you put in place to ensure that the suffering of the common man is alleviated. So you want to force me to accept change and then I die in the process. What is the essence? So it's about methodology and approach. And I can tell you, with the experience of His Excellency Peter Obi in places where he has led, we would have it better.
All right, Marcel, we need to go on a quick break. When we return, definitely we will pick up. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. This is still Politics HQ on News Central Television. I still have Marcel Ngogbehei, is the Director General of the Labour Party Directorate of Mobilization. And of course, he joins me virtually. Thank you for staying with me, Marcel. All right. Now, 2027, even though we know that it's maybe a few years away, but there seems to be a lot of momentum, already gathering ahead of the presidential polls, particularly. And political parties have started strategizing, and permutating, ahead of that election. Now, my question to you is this. Looking at the current electoral structure and the reforms, alongside, and some of the elections we have seen across states, for instance, that of the Edo election, since the presidential poll, that of the Ondo elections, for instance. Would you say that as a party, you are confident of what you're seeing on ground ahead of 2027 to deliver credible polls?
With what we're seeing, we're not confident with the current INEC and the way it operates. We're not confident with the way the ruling party has been anchoring elections state by state. But what we are confident about is that we'll make it impossible for them to do whatever they plan to do in 2027. It's going to be a tsunami, it's going to be massive mobilization. That's why we're preparing our ground. And we are telling all Nigerians that this country belongs to you. There will be a way you will vote, and it will be difficult for them to rig it. And what we want to do is a massive move, it will be difficult. We will monitor it, we will match it. And that is the kind of structure that we're putting in place. So they should see us coming. They got away with 2023, but we're not going to let them get away with 2027. If you go through all the elections that's been happening in the state, it's been the intimidations. They use a lot of, the security men rigging, thumb printing of ballot papers and all that. We see all of those in videos that comes in and pictures. And that's why we're taking our time to build a kind of a volunteer team that will spread across the country and will stand our ground.
One issue
is we're not going to take anything less than a victory. It will be a massive poll.
One issue that seems to be rife in all of this election is the issue of vote buying. And it looks like to a large extent now, from what has been observed, the electoral process has become heavily monetized. Is the Labour Party concerned?
Well, the Nigerian people that we know knows the truth. And they know that the president of this country determines what happens to them in the next 4 years. So I don't think any Nigerian will take a 10,000 naira or a 20,000 naira to mortgage his future. We're already suffering it. The few ones that did it in 2023 are regretting it, and they've come
But sorry, in the last Ondo elections, News Central was there. Even at Debo, we were there, and it happened. Some Nigerians still collected money.
I am not saying that there won't be a fraction that won't, but the majority of Nigerians, especially when it comes to presidential election, they know the presidency of Nigeria is very powerful, and it determines what happens going forward. So people might want to gamble with the state elections and all that, but at the presidency, Nigerians are not going to sell out. That's very, very clear. And that is what we are beginning to educate people about with the directorates that the Labour Party has created. So mobilization and integration is not all just we getting people. We will educate them, we will let them know the implications, and we will ensure that we have the critical numbers that will turn the election in our favor. Education is the key. We'll keep on doing that. Because, think about it. The bag of rice anyone collected in 2023 is finished, and then you're suffering. A lot of people have been sacked from work. A lot of companies have closed. So how does that bag of rice or how does that loaf of bread help you? But if you install the right person, you don't need to take a bag of rice. The food will come naturally. The economy will grow. Everybody will be fine. So it's about collective interest, and that is what we've been preaching. There is a personal interest and there is a collective interest. You have your interest, I have my interest, but there is something that both of us want. We want security, we want job, we want a country that works. So that's our collective interest. So if we put our focus on our collective interest, the 10K or the 5K that's been offered by politicians wouldn't make any difference. And what we're saying that it's just one day, one decision that we need to make to turn around our country, installing the right president in Aso Rock.
Now, talking about this mobilization, which, of course, you've put in motion, you said it's open to all, and that, of course, are volunteers and all of that. But is there a vetting process to ensure that you don't recruit moles into your party?
We vet 100%. It took us, the National Directorate was inaugurated in June, so June to now is like around 4 to 6 months. It took us that long to vet the state directorates. And there was something we have taken as our motto: politics with integrity and transparency. That's indeed our motto. We are playing politics with integrity and transparency. So if you come in, you're going to be vetted. We have had people, even within the Obidient movement, that has not lived up to expectations, and we know them. And what we simply do is to keep them where they belong. So for you to function in the directorate, you need to go through a vetting process. So the state directorate has been vetted. What we had was a minimum of 10 per state, and they have all vetted. And the vetting process also includes a period of like 2 to 3 months where we will need to check you before we issue you certificates and letter of appointments. So that process happens. So we're going to take that process all the way down to the local government and the polling units. And when we have this critical mass of people, look, there's a lot of good Nigerians out there. There's a lot of good Nigerians that want their country to work. So they're not going to come in to say they want to collect 10K or sell off. People want, think about it. If some Nigerians can sell their cars and sell their land in 2023 to support the candidates that they think will move this country forward, how much more, with all the sufferings we have witnessed, how much more do you think they're willing to do in 2027? So the politicians will be shocked. And we've started. And we will take it step by step. So 1, you'll be vetted. 2, you will stay with us for a period of 12 to 18 months. We would have taken that time to look at your behavior, look at your personalities, be sure you fit into the characteristics of the kind of persons that could be in the directorate before we deploy you. And these are mass mobilizers. One of the things that we don't do in this country is to go out and talk to people one-on-one at a level, not offering money. If Nigeria works, it works for everyone. That people are suffering today is because it's not working for everyone. If today we build a train station that is classy, that runs from Abuja to Lagos, everybody will use it. If the road between Kano to Kaduna is secured, everybody will use it.
All right, Marcel. I'm sorry to, of course, interrupt you, but I understand that we need to go on this particular first half of the program, but thank you for being a part of the program. Marcel Ngogbehei is the Director General for the Labour Party Directorate for Mobilization, and of course, he's been talking about some recent developments in the party. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.